March 1944. 23,000 feet over Germany. A B-17 limped into enemy airspace, slow, exposed, and moments from death. In the tail turret sat a gunner the crew barely knew. A man whose reputation whispered one thing: he never waited to die politely. When 12 Bf-109s formed up for the kill, he broke every rule in the manual. No warning, no hesitation. He opened fire at impossible range, scattering veterans who expected an easy target. In 4 minutes, chaos replaced certainty. Hunters fell from the sky, and a single gunner proved one truth the Air Force never forgot: aggression keeps you alive. This is the story of how one tail gunner's fearless, near-suicidal strategy reshaped aerial warfare, how raw instinct turned into doctrine, and how the most vulnerable seat on a B-17 became its most lethal asset. Michael Donovan came out of South Boston, a place where survival depended on swinging first and harder. His father hauled cargo on the docks. His brother fought in Golden Gloves rings. Mike learned young that hesitation invites pain, but action keeps you standing. By 17, he'd survived over 30 street fights, lost only 4, and earned a reputation for starting late but finishing strong. After Pearl Harbor, Donovan joined the Army Air Forces. They tried placing him on ground crew. He refused every assignment, except gunnery school. Instructors warned him he was too aggressive, too bold, too willing to risk exposure under enemy fire. Donovan answered with a line that became folklore among trainees: "Dead gunners don't shoot, the living ones do." He finished 3rd in his class, not because he was the most accurate, but because no one matched his speed. Donovan could lock onto a target faster than anyone they had ever trained. His method was brutally simple. He never waited for enemy fighters to drift into his kill zone. He went after them before they even reached it. In March 1944, Donovan was reassigned to the 390th Bombardment Group in Framlingham, England. The B-17 he joined, Hell's Fury, already carried a dark reputation. 3 missions flown, 2 nearly ending in disaster under German fighter attacks. The previous tail gunner, Sergeant Eddie Morrison, survived, but immediately requested a transfer. He told the crew chief, "That position's cursed. Next man won't make it." Donovan stepped forward without hesitation. Captain James Whitmore, the pilot, called him in. "You know the numbers?" he asked. "Tail gunners take the highest losses. 38% never finish their tour." Donovan shrugged. "Then I've got 62% in my favor. I'll take it. Because I don't wait to get shot. I shoot first." Whitmore stared at him for a long moment, then smirked. "You're crazy. Perfect. You'll fit right in." Donovan's first mission came on March 2nd, 1944, targeting a ball bearing plant in Schweinfurt. He downed 1 Bf-109 and crippled 2 more. But that wasn't what stunned the crew. It was his approach. Standard tail gunners fought defensively. Standard procedure dictated that tail gunners wait for enemy fighters to commit. Fire only when targets entered effective range, conserve ammunition, and protect the aircraft at all costs. Donovan ignored every rule. He unleashed bursts at fighters still forming up, forcing them to break formation prematurely, even if it meant wasting rounds at extreme distance. His calculation was ruthless but simple. One burst at 800 yards cost 20 rounds, but forcing a single fighter off attack saved 10,000 pounds of plane and 9 lives. The math was undeniable. On his second mission, March 4th, targeting another factory, Donovan experimented further. One burst, one explosion. The lead fighter, suddenly alone, veered off immediately. The entire attack crumbled. Back on the ground, Crew Chief Sergeant Frank Murphy tallied the ammunition used, astonished. "You burned through 1,600 rounds," Murphy said, incredulous. "Standard load is 2,000, 80% of your ammo on one mission." "And we didn't take a scratch," Donovan replied with a grin. "I'll take that trade every time." Yet Donovan wasn't satisfied. He'd disrupted enemy attacks, scattered their formations, but he knew he could do more. That night, in the barracks, he pored over German fighter tactics, how they approached, how they positioned, and what they expected. The Luftwaffe struck in coordinated waves, 4 to 6 fighters in echelon formation, attacking from stern quarter high, with the lead drawing the defensive fire. The wingman always exploited the gunner's attention on the lead attacker. The American response was predictable. Track the primary threat, wait for confirmed hits, conserve ammunition for the next wave. Donovan recognized the fatal flaw. U.S. gunners reacted while German pilots dictated every engagement. The attacker controlled the timing, the angle, the rhythm of the fight. Donovan wondered, what if you flipped the script? What if you struck first? What if the enemy was forced to respond to you? March 6, 1944. Pre-mission briefing. Target: the aircraft manufacturing plant at Augsburg. 800 B-17s were scheduled to fly. Intelligence warned that more than 2,500 German fighters would rise to meet them. Heavy losses were expected. Whitmore gathered his crew in the dim briefing room. "This one's going to be brutal," he said. "Stay sharp. Stay alive." Donovan raised his hand. "Request permission to try something different, sir." Whitmore squinted. "Such as?" "Aggressive fire. I want to engage them before they start their attack run. Make them defend instead of attack." Whitmore shook his head. "You'll burn through your ammo. You'll be empty before the real fight." "Or I'll stop the fight from ever happening," Donovan replied. "Sir, we've played defense for 2 years. 38% of tail gunners don't finish their tour. Maybe it's time we stopped waiting to get shot." Whitmore thought it over, then finally nodded. "You get one mission to prove it. If we get torn apart, you're off the guns. Deal?" They lifted off at 06:47 hours, formed up over East Anglia, climbed to altitude, crossed the Channel, entered German airspace at 08:24. Everything followed the usual rhythm until 09:19, when the calm shattered. "Fighters, 6 o'clock high, 12 bandits." Donovan swung his twin 50s around. 12 Bf-109s, 2,000 yards out, organizing for a coordinated strike. Standard protocol: wait for the commit, engage the lead attacker. Donovan ignored both rules. He opened fire immediately at maximum range. Low chance of hits, high chance of disruption. Tracers stitched the sky, missing by wide margins, but the impact was instant. The German formations scattered. The lead fighter broke right. Wingmen faltered, and the attack collapsed before it began. "Donovan, cease fire," Whitmore barked. "You're wasting ammo." "Negative, sir," Donovan said calmly. "Watch what happens next." The BF-109s regrouped, but now their approach was hesitant. No aggressive dive, only cautious probing. The initiative had shifted. Donovan tracked the new lead fighter, waiting until it reached 1,500 yards before opening fire again. Short, controlled bursts. He wasn't aiming to score hits, only to intimidate. The tactic worked. The formation splintered once more, but one BF-109, the wingman on the left, held steady. Aggressive, experienced, unshaken. Donovan immediately recognized the type, a veteran pilot who wouldn't be cowed by intimidation alone. He adjusted his strategy, letting the fighter close. 1,400 yards, 1,300, 1,200, the range where most gunners would have unleashed sustained fire. Donovan stayed patient, calculating, and deadly. Donovan let the German fighter close further. 1,100 yards, 1,000. Now it filled his sights. He fired. Not a short burst, but a sustained hail of lead. 200 rounds in 3 seconds. The concentration of fire was brutal. The BF-109 tried to break away, but it flew straight into the stream of tracers. The engine erupted. The aircraft disintegrated, fragments tumbling toward the earth. "Good kill," the radio operator called. Donovan just splashed one. But Donovan didn't celebrate. He was already scanning for the next target. The remaining 11 fighters regrouped, now wary of the deadly tail position. They adjusted tactics, attacking from multiple angles to divide his focus. Donovan anticipated it. When they split into 2 waves, 6 from 6 o'clock, 5 from 7, he didn't try to engage both. Every ounce of firepower went to the 6 o'clock group. "Waist gunners, you've got 7 o'clock," Donovan called. "I'm holding 6. Sergeants Tommy Price and Carl Johnson immediately opened fire on the 7 o'clock threat, perfectly synchronized. Donovan focused on his sector. 6 fighters dove toward the bomber. He picked the lead aircraft and opened fire. Direct hit. The fighter erupted in flames. The remaining 5 wavered, breaking formation for a fleeting moment. Donovan immediately shifted to the new lead, firing again. Another hit, another fiery explosion. In 30 seconds, 3 BF-109s plummeted earthward. The remaining 9 didn't regroup for another attack. They fled entirely, routed by a single tail gunner. The formation pressed on. Donovan reloaded, checked his ammunition. He'd used 1,200 rounds, leaving 800, enough for 1 more sustained engagement or 2 rapid bursts. 15 minutes later, the Germans returned. 18 fighters this time, a full staffel. They'd witnessed the destruction of the first wave and came prepared. Multiple vectors. 6 o'clock, 7, 5, 4. Overwhelming fire from every stern quarter angle. Standard doctrine called for defensive fire. Cover all approaches, divide attention. Survive by evasive maneuvers and a measure of luck. Donovan chose aggression. He ignored the threats at 4 and 5 o'clock, leaving the waist and ball gunners to handle them. His full focus locked on the 6 o'clock direct stern attack. 6 BF-109s dove straight toward Hell's Fury's tail. Donovan didn't flinch. He didn't attempt evasive maneuvers. He tracked the lead fighter, guns aligned, and opened fire at 200 yards, the maximum effective range for his twin 5.50s. Closing speed between bomber and fighter, 400 knots. That left him precisely 7 seconds before the German reached firing position. Donovan used every single second. He drove tracers directly into the lead BF-109's flight path. The fighter couldn't evade without breaking formation. The pilot held steady. Fatal mistake. At 800 yards, Donovan's rounds found metal. The canopy shattered. The aircraft rolled inverted and plummeted earthward. 5 remained. 400 yards between them and Hell's Fury. 3 seconds to impact. Donovan swung to the next fighter. No time to aim properly. Pure instinct. He fired where the target would be in 2 seconds, not where it was. Physics dictated the kill. The second BF-109 collided with his tracers. Engine cowling disintegrated. The fighter erupted in a massive orange fireball, debris scattering across the sky. The final 3 broke formation instantly, abandoning any attempt at another pass. Defensive maneuvers only. Fleeing a single tail gun. 7. Jesus Christ! Whitmore's voice crackled over the intercom. Donovan had just splashed 2 more BF-109s in 3 seconds. But there was no celebration. He was reloading, his final ammunition belt, 400 rounds left, and the mission was only halfway complete. They still had to reach the target, release the bombs, and fight their way back through the same fighter-infested skies. The formation pressed on toward Augsburg. At a distance, the remaining 12 German fighters from the original 18 regrouped. Direct stern attacks had cost them too much. They needed a new approach. What came next stunned everyone. The fighters didn't strike. Instead, they shadowed the bombers, staying just outside gun range, waiting. Whitmore recognized the pattern instantly. They're calling in reinforcements. We're about to get hit by everything they've got. 10 minutes later, radar confirmed it. 36 fighters inbound. A full staffel of BF-109s and FW-190s. Combined with the 12 already shadowing, Hell's Fury faced 48 enemy aircraft against a single B-17's defensive guns. Standard procedure: radio for escort, form a tight Titan formation, maximize overlapping fire, and hope coordination keeps you alive. But Hell's Fury had slipped out of formation during the earlier engagements. The nearest friendly bomber was 3 miles away. No P-51 escorts in sight. They were alone. Donovan checked his belt. 380 rounds left against 48 fighters. The math didn't work. Not unless he changed the equation. "Captain," Donovan called over the intercom, requesting permission to try something. "What?" "Attack." Silence filled the headset. Then Whitmore's voice came through, steady, controlled. "Explain. Those fighters are forming up for a coordinated strike. Give them 2 minutes, and they'll hit us from every angle at once. We can't defend against that, but we can break their formation before they're ready. If I fire now, while they're still organizing, I can scatter them. You'll burn through your ammo in 30 seconds. Then I'd better make those 30 seconds matter, Donovan replied. Sir, defensive tactics don't work when you're outnumbered 20-1. Our only chance is hitting them while they're vulnerable. Whitmore hesitated 3 seconds, then made his call. Do it. And Donovan, if you get us killed, I'm writing your family a very angry letter. Donovan didn't waste a single heartbeat. The German formation sat 2,000 yards out, still weaving into attack vectors, lead elements aligning angles, trailing wings settling into support slots. It was the most dangerous moment for them, and the perfect moment for him. He opened fire, not short bursts, not warning shots, but a full throttle, maximum sustained barrage. 200 rounds in 8 seconds ripped through the heart of the formation, targeting not individual planes, but the empty air where coordination lived, where spacing and discipline maintained order. The results were instantaneous and catastrophic. One Bf-109 erupted in flames and plummeted earthward. 2 others collided while trying to evade the wall of tracers. The entire formation, 48 fighters, fractured into chaos. No vectors, no timing, no plan. Just raw survival as aircraft scattered in every direction. Holy, Whitmore started, but never finished. He didn't need to. Every man on Hell's Fury had just witnessed a single tail gunner dismantle the largest coordinated German assault they had ever seen. But Donovan didn't celebrate. He knew the truth. He hadn't won. He had only bought them time. 2 minutes, maybe less. The Germans would regroup, angrier than ever. They were angry now, aggressive and vengeful. The next wave would come fast and furious, and Donovan had only 180 rounds left. The German fighters regrouped faster than anticipated, just 90 seconds. This time, there was no coordination. They swarmed. 12 fighters dove from 6 o'clock simultaneously. No formation, no strategy, only overwhelming violence. Donovan selected his targets with precision. Not the closest, not the boldest, but the psychological center of the swarm, where the pack drew its courage. He unleashed 30-round bursts into 3 consecutive aircraft. All 3 were hit. 1 exploded, 2 trailed smoke and broke off. The remaining 9 closed in, now within 400 yards. Cannon fire lit the sky as 20-millimeter rounds streaked past Hell's Fury's tail. Some connected, metal shrieking as the bomber shuddered. Donovan stayed focused. Target burst, mechanical precision, no fear, no hesitation. Another Bf-109 fell, then another. 5 remained. 200 yards, point-blank range. Donovan could see the pilots' faces, young, determined, professional. He fired anyway. 2 more fighters erupted in flames. 3 survivors broke off at just 100 yards. Too close. Risk of collision now outweighed any hope of another kill. Donovan tracked one last fighter. Squeezed the trigger. Nothing. Silence. The guns were empty. he had burned through his final 180 rounds in just 45 seconds, dropping 6 fighters in that engagement alone. But now he was defenseless. "I'm out," Donovan reported over the intercom. "Dry on all guns." "Copy," Whitmore replied. "Damage report. Anyone hit?" The crew checked in. The ball turret had taken minor damage. The rudder showed stress fractures. But every man was alive, and the aircraft remained operational. Hell's Fury could still fly, could still fight, but not from the tail. And the German pilots knew it. They regrouped one last time. 27 aircraft remained from the original 48. They had lost 21 fighters to a single bomber, to a single gun position. The losses were catastrophic, unacceptable, humiliating. But now they held one undeniable advantage. The tail guns were silent. They attacked from straight astern, 6 o'clock low, the one approach Donovan could no longer defend. Tight formation, slow, deliberate, no wasted movement. This wasn't an attack anymore. This was an execution. Donovan watched them close in. 400 yards, 300, 200. No ammunition, no way to strike. But he had one weapon left: psychology. He traversed his twin 50s across the lead fighter, tracking perfectly, maintaining flawless targeting discipline, as if his guns were loaded, as if he could fire at any second. The German pilot saw the barrels aligned, saw the deadly precision. Instinct kicked in. Hard right turn. The leader broke formation. The rest of the squadron followed, reacting to their calm. They abandoned the attack pattern, not because Donovan could fire, but because they believed he could. His reputation, forged by the 6 kills minutes before, transformed empty guns into lethal instruments. "They're actually breaking off," the ball turret gunner muttered, relief in his voice. And they were. The formation scattered, never regrouping. 21 fighters lost to a single bomber. The cost too high. The Germans disengaged completely, retreating toward their bases. Leaving Hell's Fury alone in hostile skies, its tail guns empty, but its crew victorious. The bomber formation pressed on to Augsburg, dropped their payload, obliterating the aircraft factory, and flew home through 3 more fighter contacts, but none dared engage Hell's Fury. Word had spread through German radio. One B-17 with an insane tail gunner had single-handedly destroyed 21 fighters. The message was clear: avoid that aircraft. Too dangerous. Too costly. Hell's Fury touched down at Framlingham at 16:47 hours, 9 hours after takeoff. Donovan climbed out of the tail, hands steady, no tremors, no visible stress. The ground crew swarmed, assessing the damage. 47 bullet holes, 13 cannon strikes, a destroyed hydraulic line, cracked rudder, but the bomber had survived. Crew Chief Murphy inspected the tail gun position and the ammunition boxes. Completely empty. Every round had been fired. He found Donovan sitting on the tarmac, smoking a cigarette. "You used everything?" Murphy asked. 2,000 rounds, every bullet we loaded. "Had to," Donovan replied. "Couldn't afford to waste any." Whitmore approached. "How many did he get?" Murphy checked his notes, cross-referenced the crew reports. listened to the radio intercepts, and confirmed visual sightings from the escort fighters who finally caught up near Augsburg. 12 confirmed kills, Murphy said. 4 probables, 3 damaged. Whitmore stared at Donovan. You destroyed 12 fighters in one mission. 19, counting probables and damaged, Murphy added. All in 4 minutes of sustained combat. The story spread through the bomber group before sunset. By morning, every tail gunner at Framlingham was asking for Donovan's methods. By afternoon, pilots from other groups were requesting briefings. By evening, representatives from 8th Air Force Headquarters arrived to question him. Major General Frederick Anderson, commanding officer of ETO Bomber Command, came in person. He found Donovan in the enlisted barracks, calmly cleaning his guns. Routine maintenance, nothing dramatic. Anderson introduced himself. Donovan snapped to attention. At ease, Sergeant, the general said. I'm here to understand what happened yesterday. Donovan explained his philosophy. Aggressive fire, psychological disruption, striking during the enemy's formation phase, and exploiting the critical window before German coordination locked into place. Anderson listened in complete silence, absorbing every detail. When Donovan finished, the general asked only one question. Can you teach this to the right men? Donovan shook his head slightly. Not everyone has the temperament. You need gunners who think like fighters, men who see opportunity instead of danger, who'd rather strike first than brace for impact. Anderson didn't hesitate. Then find them. I'm authorizing a dedicated training program. You will design the doctrine, choose the candidates, and reshape tail gun tactics for the entire 8th Air Force. Effective immediately, Donovan was reassigned to training command. He hesitated. Sir, I'd rather stay with my crew. Anderson was blunt. Your crew doesn't need you anymore. They're alive because of what you did. Other crews are dying because their gunners don't know what you know. Which is more important, 9 men or 9,000? The answer was obvious. Donovan accepted the assignment. Over the next month, he developed what became known as the Donovan Doctrine, a revolutionary approach to aggressive tail gunnery. The core principles were simple but transformative. First, seize the initiative. Don't wait for enemy fighters to attack. Strike first. Strike fast. Engage the enemy during their formation phase. Force them to react to you instead of executing their plan. That was the second principle. Psychological warfare. Your opening burst didn't need to destroy the target. It needed to rattle the entire formation, make them cautious, hesitant, unsure of their own attack. Third came focus fire. When outnumbered, never scatter your attention. Concentrate all firepower on the most dangerous sector and trust the other gun positions to control the rest. The fourth principle was ammunition economy through aggression. 30 well-timed rounds that forced 12 fighters to break formation were more valuable than 300 rounds fired at scattered, uncoordinated targets. Prevention costs less than reaction. And finally, the fifth principle, accept risk. Traditional doctrine kept gunners defensive, and defensive gunners died in high numbers. Aggressive tactics increased personal exposure, but dramatically reduced bomber losses. It was a simple equation: individual risk for collective survival. The mission mattered more than the man. Naturally, the Donovan Doctrine drew immediate resistance. Old-school gunners called it reckless, dangerous, suicidal even. Command officers fretted over ammunition waste. Conservative tactics instructors labeled Donovan's methods suicidal. But the numbers didn't lie. In March 1944, before his tactics spread, tail gunner casualty rates in the 8th Air Force averaged 38%. By June 1944, after aggressive fire doctrine had been widely adopted, that rate dropped to 23%. Same missions, same enemy, different tactics, a 15% reduction in casualties. Yet statistics on survival only told part of the story. The real impact appeared in fighter engagement data, where aggressive gunners were not just surviving, they were dominating, forcing enemy aircraft to break off attacks, scatter, and abandon coordinated assault altogether. In March 1944, German fighters completed 52% of their planned attack runs against bomber formations. By June, that rate had dropped to just 27%. Aggressive tail gunner fire disrupted enemy coordination so thoroughly that more than half of all planned attacks were aborted before the fighters even reached firing position. The psychological impact extended far beyond individual missions. German pilots began actively avoiding bombers known to have aggressive gunners aboard. Radio intercepts captured squadron leaders, issuing warnings to their pilots, steering them away from specific American formations. Fearful of the deadly tail defenses they had learned to respect. The mere reputation of aggressive defense created an immediate tactical advantage. Between March and August 1944, Donovan trained 300 tail gunners. Each underwent 2 weeks of intensive instruction, live fire exercises, simulated fighter attacks, and rigorous psychological conditioning. Mental preparation was as critical as technical skill. Donovan's favorite maxim became the cornerstone of the program. Fear happens when you react. Confidence happens when you act first. But not every candidate succeeded. The aggressive doctrine demanded a rare combination of traits: decisiveness under pressure, comfort with risk, and the ability to maintain focus amid chaos. Roughly 30% of candidates washed out. They couldn't overcome defensive instincts, couldn't embrace the required aggression, couldn't accept the calculus of risk. Those who passed became legends. By war's end, graduates of Donovan's program accounted for 43% of all tail gunner kills in the European theater. They developed innovations Donovan had never taught, evolving the doctrine beyond its creator. One graduate, Sergeant Thomas Bailey, destroyed 16 fighters in his first 4 missions, a testament to the program's lethal effectiveness. Another example was Sergeant Robert Chen, who survived 27 missions without sustaining serious damage to his gun position. The Donovan Doctrine didn't just increase kills, it drastically improved survival rates through deterrence. German pilots quickly learned to recognize aggressive tail gunners. The signs were unmistakable: early opening fire at extreme range, sustained barrages rather than cautious bursts, tracers sweeping directly through the formation's core. When enemy pilots observed these indicators, they abandoned their attacks immediately. The cost of engaging a well-trained, aggressive defender far outweighed the potential payoff of downing a single bomber. The psychological edge had become a weapon as lethal as the guns themselves. By the summer of 1944, Luftwaffe training manuals included entire sections on American aggressive gunner tactics. The prescribed countermeasures were simple. Avoid. Find easier targets. Do not engage bombers with active, aggressive tail defense. The psychological balance had reversed. Now, German pilots feared American gunners more than the gunners feared them. Donovan's personal combat career ended with that legendary March 6th mission. He never flew another combat sortie, spending the remainder of the war training others. But his influence stretched far beyond the 12 confirmed kills. Conservative estimates credit the Donovan Doctrine with saving 300 American bombers and 3,000 airmen. The ripple effect of preventing successful German attacks reshaped the entire European air campaign. After the war, military historians meticulously studied Donovan's tactics. The principle of aggressive defense became codified in aerial combat doctrine across multiple nations. The Soviet Union, Britain, and even post-war analysis in Germany acknowledged its effectiveness. The concept spread beyond bombers, influencing fighter escorts, ground attack aircraft, and naval aviation alike. Wherever defensive positions existed, Donovan's principles applied. Yet Donovan himself returned to Boston, took up construction work, and rarely spoke of the war. When journalists tracked him down in the 1960s, he declined interviews. "I did what needed doing," he said. So did 300 other gunners. They're the real story. One of those gunners, Sergeant Thomas Bailey, disagreed. In a 1972 interview, he described Donovan's impact. Before him, survival meant hiding, staying small, conserving ammunition. Mike taught them differently. Survival meant making the enemy afraid to attack you. It sounded simple, but it changed everything. The numbers proved his point. The 8th Air Force conducted a detailed analysis in 1945, comparing bomber losses before and after the adoption of aggressive gunnery. From March through May 1944, average losses were 14 bombers per 1,000 sorties. By June through August, losses dropped to 8 per 1,000, a 43% reduction. Same targets, same German defenses. The difference was clear. Gunners who shot first, captured German records, revealed the enemy perspective. Luftwaffe after-action reports from the summer of 1944 repeatedly noted the aggression of American tail gunners. One report from June stated, "American tail gunners have adopted new tactics. They engage formations during the approach phase with sustained fire." The effect is a psychological disruption of attack coordination. Recommendation: avoid direct stern approaches. Utilize high-angle diving attacks from 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock positions. Implementing that recommendation proved difficult. High-angle dives demanded different training. new coordination, and a recalculation of risk. Many German pilots failed to adapt. Those who tried faced aggressive American tailgunners employing similar tactics. By August 1944, the Donovan Doctrine had spread to every defensive position on U.S. bombers. German fighter effectiveness against American formations had dropped 63% compared to January 1944. A testament to the compounded impact of aggressive gunnery, psychological deterrence, and tactical innovation. Better fighter escorts, improved bomber formation tactics, and strategic targeting of German oil production all contributed to Allied air superiority. But internal Luftwaffe analysis attributed 28% of the decline specifically to American aggressive gunner tactics. Donovan never knew these numbers, never saw the German reports, and never fully grasped the extent of his impact. He passed away in 1998 at age 76. His Boston Globe obituary highlighted 16 years of dedicated work in construction, his wife Margaret, and their 3 children. One paragraph mentioned his wartime service as a tail gunner in the 8th Air Force, noting that he developed new tactics, but it made no mention of his 12 kills in 4 minutes, the 300 gunners he trained, the 3,000 lives saved, or how one South Boston street fighter fundamentally reshaped aerial combat doctrine for every nation that studied his methods. His funeral drew only 17 people, mostly family, 2 war buddies, no military honor guard, no 21-gun salute, just a quiet service at St. Augustine Cemetery. The priest performing the service had no idea about March 6, 1944. He didn't know about the Donovan Doctrine. He didn't realize he was burying a man who had forever changed the course of aerial warfare. But the other tail gunners knew. Every veteran of the aggressive gunnery program understood the significance. They had gathered the night before at a bar in South Boston, raising glasses, telling stories, remembering the man who had taught them to shoot first and intimidate the enemies who sought to kill them. Bailey, now 74, gave the toast. Mike Donovan never considered himself special, just a guy doing his job. But that job had saved 3,000 lives. Every bomber that made it home because German fighters broke off their attacks. Every gunner who survived his tour because he learned to be aggressive instead of defensive. Every mission that succeeded because the enemy was too frightened to engage. That is Mike Donovan's legacy. Not 12 kills, 12,000 lives. The Donovan Doctrine remains a cornerstone of modern aerial combat training. Fighter pilots study aggressive engagement principles. Gunners on transport aircraft learn psychological intimidation tactics. Even modern missile defense systems incorporate the concept of early engagement to disrupt enemy coordination. March 6, 1944, lasted 4 minutes. 1 tail gunner, 12 enemy fighters. A moment when defense became offense, when reaction became action, when a South Boston street fighter proved that survival doesn't come from hiding. It comes from making your enemy too scared to fight. Michael Donovan fired 2,000 rounds, destroyed 12 aircraft, saved 3,000 lives, and changed warfare forever. not because he was exceptional, but because he refused to wait for death to find him. He went hunting first. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps preserve these histories. Share in the comments where you're watching from. We honor the courage of these men by remembering their names. Thank you for keeping their stories alive.